worse. It's just different. It's a unified voice. But also, it wouldn't be a survey of philosophy such as the edited books usually are. They have a little ethics, a little metaphysics, a little logic, etc. And my book, because I'm an ethicist, would be all ethics. So that's what the virtues of Captain America was, and then now, obviously, Batman and ethics.
And which superhero would you say you identify with most?
Ooh, that's a cool question.
Well, obviously, I'd like to identify with Captain America. I mean, you kind of have to, yeah. But no, I, other than, this is one point I want to bring up based on something you said before, but it got rolling and I didn't get it in, is that, you can look up to Captain America's virtue without necessarily agreeing with every aspect of his moral code. In other words, you can look up to him and say, I want to be as good as he is, but maybe in a different way. Maybe I want to focus on this virtue more than that one, or maybe I would make different choices. That's why I think Captain America plays such an interesting role in the Marvel Universe, is that he is the moral center of the Marvel Universe, but not everyone agrees with him on everything. So, Iron Man famously disagrees with him more than anybody else, but he still looks up to Captain America, even if they don't agree on everything. So when I say I identify with Captain America, I mean, that sounds kind of arrogant the way I've set up Captain America to be such a perfect being. Obviously, I identify with Captain America. No, but I mean that's who I would like to identify with, and I think we have the same ideas about wanting to be good and wanting to do good. Batman, obviously, there's the inconsistency and everything, which I have, but so I guess I would identify with Batman in that sense, though I wouldn't want to. But I do really envy his dedication and his focus. I mean, that single-minded drive. Think how much I could write if I had that drive and wasn't so worried about keeping my kitchen clean. And finally, the Thing from the Fantastic Four.
Oh, that's an interesting one. Why?
Just because he's just. Wow, this is just he's I can't find the word for it.
Is it an appearance-based thing? Because like on the outside, he.
Well, yeah, I'm not that pretty. That's,
no, I'm not trying to say that.
That's you walked into that.
But no, but that's really it though. The fact that he thinks he's a monster, and the fact that he's always down on himself, but he's still one of the best heroes in the Marvel Universe, because even though he thinks he's a monster, even though he imagines that kids are afraid of him, even though they're not, even though he imagines that he's an outcast, he still rises above all that and is one of the greatest heroes in the Marvel Universe. So he doesn't look like Chris Evans. He doesn't have the swagger of a Tony Stark. He doesn't have most of the male and female heroes in comics are beautiful. And here's the Thing, who by definition, what makes him the Thing is that he's got this horrible, monstrous, rocky appearance. And he could very well. This is just a different type of trauma, right? I mean, they make a big deal out of the transformation of the Fantastic Four. The other three were transformed in ways that can pass. The Thing can't. And the other three were given powers that really may have slight drawbacks, but for the most part make them better, enhance their abilities. The Thing got bigger and stronger, but at a great cost, at least in his mind. At a great cost. And there's something about that, kind of that persistent consciousness that you're flawed, or at least the self-impression that you're flawed, but you don't take that out on people. You don't take that, as contrasted with Dr. Doom, who wears the metal faceplate, the Fantastic Four, is behind me, who wears the faceplate to hide his hideous, grotesque disfigurement. But the secret is, that's been hinted at the comics, is originally his disfigurement was just a tiny scar.
His face.
But he was so vain that he had to hide that. And of course, once he put the molten mask on his face, it did scar his entire face. Oh, wow. But the whole thing was initiated because he got a tiny little scar on his cheek, and he was so vain he had to hide this disfigurement, as opposed to the Thing, who is literally a creature covered with rocks. Right. But he doesn't take it out on anybody.
Wow.
He just goes out, and even if people are scared, even if people are run, he's still trying to help people. He's still trying to be a hero.
Yeah, and I would say that that also goes back to his perspective of what's important.
Right.
Yeah, wow, that's really incredible.
And actually, if I recall, I used to watch the Fantastic Four cartoon back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the Thing, he struggled with a lot of that stuff, like the way he appeared to people in the movies too. And you'd see how he'd overcome that struggle by realizing what is right, what's the greater good, and he'd overcome those inner obstacles at the times when it was most needed. So I can appreciate like why you like him. I could see that. For some reason, I don't know why I was thinking about Superman as an interesting character, because on the outside he's perfect, like he's physical perfection, right? But internally he's subject to a lot of emotional turmoil, ebbs and flows and stuff like that, and that is kind of his own worst enemy. So it's interesting because the Thing on the outside doesn't look great, but internally his inner turmoil is the thing that he has to get past, and that's kind of the same thing for Superman, even though Superman doesn't definitely doesn't struggle with the same thing the Thing struggles with in that sense. But that's a tangent right there. I don't know. I just had to get that out there. I was just thinking about Superman for some reason.
Yeah, well, Superman.
Well, and it is interesting. You just made me think of it. Superman's main internal struggle, at least the last several decades, has kind of almost been